In this true crime documentary, we uncover the shocking case of 25-year-old mom, Jessica Heeringa.
My name is Shelley. I'm here to talk about my daughter, Jessica Heeringa. She was abducted from Norton Shores, Michigan on April 26, 2013. Jessica was very loving. She was always willing to go that extra mile for anyone. She was a single mother raising a 3-year-old son. I would like to leave a message for my daughter. If by any chance, Jess, you can see this, I want you to know how much I love you. And I want you to stay strong and don't give up faith, because we will never, ever quit looking for you.
On April 26, 2013, Jessica Heeringa arrived at the Exxon gas station for her evening shift at exactly 4:35 p.m. It was supposed to be just another quiet night behind the counter. But that evening, something felt off to the people who loved her most. Her boyfriend made a stop at the station just to see her face and check in before the night dragged on. Not long after that, one of her close friends also dropped by, sharing the same quiet concern. They both hated the fact that she was working these hours completely alone. But there was something even more unsettling about the place itself. The gas station had no surveillance, nothing watching the entrance. It was just Jessica, a young woman working a night shift in a place with too many shadows and no witnesses. At around 11 p.m., a man pulled up to the pump just like any regular customer. But the moment he stepped out, something felt wrong. The station was empty. No one behind the counter. No sign of staff. He glanced around, thinking maybe someone had stepped out back for a smoke or a break. But as he circled the building slowly, that sinking feeling started to settle in his chest.
I just walked inside. There's nobody. There's a car here. There's another car out front. But it's very suspicious why there's nobody here.
Okay, so did you yell or anything, or?
Yeah, I hollered, hey, walked around the building. It's just, I don't know.
Officers arrived at the Exxon station shortly after the alert and immediately began their inspection. It didn't take long before unease crept in. A woman's jacket had been left carelessly behind. Next to it, a purse filled with nearly $400 still zipped shut. Nearby, a pack of cigarettes sat untouched on the counter. Nothing about the scene made sense. These weren't signs of someone leaving willingly. These were traces of someone who had been interrupted. Someone who never had the chance to finish what they were doing. Investigators quickly pulled the latest transaction. The final purchase had been made at exactly 10:55 p.m. A customer had paid for a cigarette lighter. Just 5 minutes later, someone was on the phone with emergency services, reporting that the station was completely abandoned. Something had shifted in those minutes. Then the officers stepped outside. That's when the weight of the moment truly hit them. On the pavement were faint specks of red scattered in a way that suggested something abrupt had happened. A battery cover from what appeared to be a laser sight was also discovered nearby. Its presence raised a disturbing possibility. But just as they were processing the shock, another disturbing detail caught their eye. The door that led to the red stain could only be opened from the inside. There was no handle on the outside. At first glance, it could have been a robbery. But if someone had come for money, then why was the cash untouched? Jessica's purse was still full. The station's register hadn't been forced open. There were no signs of anything missing. Whatever happened here wasn't about money. It was about her. After some digging, the officers identified the missing worker, Jessica Heeringa, 25 years old. She had vanished without a trace, and all they had were scraps. No witnesses, no surveillance. Just a growing list of questions, and a gas station that held its silence like a grave. In a desperate attempt to break that silence, police began knocking on doors and asking neighbors if they'd seen or heard anything unusual. But no one had answers, at least not yet. What they didn't realize was that their questions would trigger something bigger than expected. Word of Jessica's disappearance began to spread beyond the station. It moved through the neighborhood, reached unexpected ears. And when it landed at the feet of the station manager, she decided to come forward with a statement that would change everything. She explained that around the time Jessica was last seen, she had been passing by on her motorcycle. What she saw made her circle back. A silver van pulling around to the back of the station. At first, she admitted she thought something shady was going on. Her mind even wandered to the idea that maybe Jessica was sneaking merchandise out the back. She said she slowed her bike to see more clearly. That's when she saw the figure standing at the van's rear. The back hatch was wide open. The person shut it quickly, then opened it again, as if they were adjusting something or someone, then closed it once more. The manager never saw Jessica, never heard a scream, but something about the way the van pulled off moments later stuck with her. The driver was a man wearing a red or maybe orange sweatshirt. His hair was wild and disorderly. He never looked her way, just drove off into the night as if he had finished what he came to do. She said she didn't report it at first because nothing seemed obviously wrong. But now, with Jessica missing, her silence didn't sit right. After the investigators took the manager's testimony, something finally shifted. For the first time, they had a solid lead. Whoever had taken Jessica was most likely a man driving a silver minivan. It wasn't much, but it was the first real thread they could pull. So they turned to the surrounding surveillance footage, hoping that maybe some nearby businesses had captured what the station itself could not. And they got lucky. One camera had caught the image of a Chrysler town and country moving through the area around the time Jessica vanished. It was just moving in and out of frame, like a shadow. Based on the manager's description, this was the only vehicle that matched what she saw that night. But just when the investigators felt like they were getting closer, the reality of the task hit them hard. Because in Michigan State, where over 15,000 vehicles of that exact model were registered, at least 5,000 of them were silver. How could they find one specific van when the roads were crawling with identical ones? The spark of hope they had found dimmed fast. Still, they pushed forward. They kept canvassing the area, hoping that some small, overlooked detail might surface. And then it did. A woman came forward with something the detectives had never expected. She said she had stopped at the station just the day before Jessica disappeared. While chatting with her, she brought up how unsafe it was for her to be working alone so late at night. Jessica agreed, said she hated the isolation. But before either of them could finish the conversation, someone nearby overheard them and cut in. He told the woman not to worry, that Jessica wasn't really alone, that her customers would protect her. But the way he said it wasn't comforting. It was off. The energy in that moment changed, and both women stopped talking immediately. Unlike the station manager who hadn't seen the man's face, this woman had looked him directly in the eye. She described him in detail, his clothes, his hair, his unsettling tone. Based on her memory, a composite sketch was drawn and quickly distributed to every search team in the area. The net was starting to tighten. Teams were still looking for Jessica everywhere, but now they weren't just searching for her. They were also hunting for the man who claimed she wasn't alone. Days turned into weeks. Weeks bled into months. And still Jessica was nowhere to be found. And the man they are looking for also vanished. The case that once set an entire community on edge had slowly drifted into silence. Leads went cold, witnesses disappeared, and eventually her name slipped from the headlines. By the end of that year, the investigation was classified as inactive, a file gathering dust with a photo of a young woman who had simply vanished.
Where is your emergency?
We come up to this lady. She's laying in the road. I think she was hit by a car.
Okay.
She's got a head injury.
In the summer of 2014, roughly 20 minutes away from Norton Shores, where Jessica had last been seen, a woman named Rebecca Bletch was found lying motionless in the middle of a quiet road. At first, the neighbors who discovered her assumed she had been struck by a passing car. Her body was twisted, her breathing shallow. It looked like an accident. But what investigators found when they arrived told a much darker story.
Police say the victim had been shot 3 times in the back of the head and reveal that she suffered bruises to her wrists, hands, back, and leg. It's not clear what caused the bruises. Bletch was still alive with a weak pulse when neighbors found her on Automobile Road not far from her home, just after 6 in the evening on June 29th. She died a short time later. Investigators say they also found 3 .22 caliber shell casings near her body.
Rebecca had not been hit by a car. She had been attacked. 3 gunshot wounds to the back of her head, bruises across her wrists, on her hands, her back, her leg. No one could say what caused the bruises. No one could explain why she had ended up on that road. It was just past 6 in the evening on June 29th. She was still alive when neighbors spotted her, but the damage was beyond repair. She died shortly after they arrived. Near her body, officers discovered 3 shell casings from a .22 caliber weapon. The working theory was that it may have been a random attack, a jogger caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. But there was something about the details that left investigators deeply unsettled. And what no one could shake was the proximity. 2 women, both attacked in small towns near Norton Shores. One vanished without a trace. The other left for dead on the road. Could it really be a coincidence? Or was someone out there watching, choosing, planning? Yet just like in Jessica's case, there were no witnesses and no cameras. 3 years had passed since Jessica vanished from that gas station, and 2 years had gone by since Rebecca's lifeless body was discovered on that quiet stretch of road. But in April of 2016, something happened that would crack everything wide open.
Okay, we're gonna get help there, okay? Stay in the line with me, okay? Stay in the line with me. Who has a gun? Okay, so the guy's not there?
Stop.
Is it the female? Who was it?
I don't even know him. I'm just, please let me know, right now, please let me know.
Okay, the officer's right around the corner, okay?
He was 6 years in his 40s.
And was it a minivan? Like a full-size van?
Yes.
And you said he was about 40 years old?
No. Thank you so much. What did you say?
I said, what color hair did he have or anything?
Dark.
Dark hair?
Yeah, he had a
Was it a white male or a black male?
white.
You weren't able to get a license plate or anything, were you?
No.
A 16-year-old girl was walking home from a party late one night. She'd taken a wrong turn and gotten lost. Streets she didn't recognize, no phone, no one around. Then a silver minivan pulled up slowly beside her. The driver leaned over and asked if she needed help. She said she didn't want a ride, not from him. But she did ask if she could use his phone to call someone she trusted. He agreed. She got inside, and that's when everything changed. The moment she stepped in, he slammed the van into gear and sped off into the dark. The road blurred past her as he pulled out a firearm and pointed it at her chest. She panicked, fought. Then in a moment of instinct, she threw herself from the moving van. Bruised and shaking, she ran to the nearest house and banged on the door until someone let her in. She was safe, but the man in that van had vanished again. The police got there fast and she didn't hold anything back. The police pulled surveillance footage from nearby homes and businesses. And when they did, they saw something that made their hearts stop. The vehicle caught on camera was a silver Chrysler Town, the same make, the same color, the same van last seen circling the back of the gas station on the night Jessica disappeared. But this time, the police managed to narrow down the list of suspected vehicles from 15,000 to just 11. They then showed the girl photos of the car's owners. And without hesitation, she pointed to one man. His name was Jeffrey Willis. With that confirmation, police moved quickly. Search warrants were issued. They raided his home. They searched his van. And what they found was really a nightmare. Tucked away inside the van were multiple syringes pre-filled with what appeared to be an insulin. But that wasn't all. There were handcuffs, a rope, a ball gag, even pills typically used to enhance male performance. The items weren't random. They painted a picture about someone who had planned every detail of what he wanted to do. Then they found the weapon, a .22 caliber firearm. Ballistics testing confirmed. It was the exact same firearm used in the killing of Rebecca Bletch. The bullets matched, the casings matched. But there was one final piece of confirmation that chilled the investigators more than anything else. The handgun was missing the battery cover on its laser sight, the exact same part that had been found outside the gas station 3 years earlier. There was a catch, though. The serial number on the weapon had been deliberately removed. Someone didn't want it traced, but investigators weren't done. They managed to recover the serial digits, and what they uncovered added a new layer of horror. That gun had been reported stolen by a co-worker of Jeffrey Willis, someone who worked with him at the same factory. Yet it didn't end there. Inside his house, things spiraled even further. His personal computer revealed disturbing material, content that featured both women and underage individuals in contexts that were deeply alarming. But the most unsettling discovery wasn't just what was on his screen. It was how he labeled it. One folder stood out, titled simply VIX. Inside were subfolders named JLH and RSB. To anyone else, these letters would mean nothing. But to investigators, those initials hit like a sledgehammer. Jessica Lynn Heeringa, Rebecca Sue Bletch. The folders held photos of both women, news articles, case coverage. It was as if he was archiving their stories, keeping them, owning them. Then came the password. One of his computers was locked behind a code. When investigators finally cracked it, their blood ran cold. J4L27H13, Jessica's initials, and the exact date she vanished. If there was any doubt left, it ended there. Jeffrey Willis was arrested, charged with the kidnapping and disappearance of Jessica, charged with the shooting of Rebecca, charged for the attempted abduction of the teenage girl who unknowingly brought his empire of silence crashing down. And that wasn't the end. He was also named a suspect in another case, a student from Fruitport High School, a case that had gone cold since 1996. Now the question was no longer whether he did it. It was just how many others were out there. In a turn no one saw coming. Just 1 month after Jeffrey Willis was arrested, another name suddenly emerged from the shadows. His own cousin, Kevin Bloom, a Michigan prison guard who had no idea that his own words would drag him directly into the center of 2 unresolved cases. During questioning, Kevin made a statement that sent shockwaves through the investigation. He claimed that one day Jeffrey called him and told him there was a gathering at his place. But when Kevin arrived, it wasn't a party he walked into. He said he saw Jessica lying unconscious on the floor, without clothes and visibly injured. According to Kevin, she had already been harmed severely, wrapped in a sheet, and later buried somewhere no one could find. But just as quickly as he gave that statement, he withdrew it, said it wasn't true. But the damage had already been done. He was charged with 2 counts of providing false statements to investigators. And with pressure mounting, Kevin finally broke. He entered a guilty plea on both counts. The court sentenced him to time served. But that wasn't the end of his involvement. As more evidence came to light, another charge was filed. On November 27, 2017, Kevin pled no contest to a far more serious allegation. He admitted to helping his cousin Jeffrey dispose of Jessica's remains. This made him an accessory after the fact. For that role, he was sentenced again to time served. But this time, he also received 5 years of probation and was ordered to wear a GPS tracking device for no less than 1 year. Meanwhile, the clock continued to tick on the other side of the courtroom. Jeffrey Willis had already been convicted in the case of Rebecca Bletch. He had been sentenced to life behind bars with no possibility of release. While Rebecca's family poured their pain into their victim impact statements, Jeffrey Willis turned his back. He requested to leave the courtroom, and before stepping out, he blew them a kiss as if mocking their grief.
And I don't disagree with that.
As for Jessica's case was still hanging in the air. The man believed to be responsible was already in prison, but he hadn't yet been convicted for what happened to her. In May 2018, 5 years after Jessica Lynn Heeringa vanished from that quiet corner gas station, her case finally made it to trial. It had taken years of silence broken only by fragments of evidence and one unshakable belief that Jeffrey Willis was the man responsible for what happened that night. Despite the absence of a body, prosecutors came to court with a case built on chilling patterns and disturbing digital traces. They revealed that Willis had visited the Exxon station more than 15 times before the night Jessica disappeared. He wasn't just passing by. He was watching, studying, waiting. On the night Jessica vanished, Willis was supposed to be at work, but factory logs confirmed he never showed up, and the records pulled from his phone told their own story. His location placed him near his grandfather's house, just minutes from the gas station. Right around 11 p.m., the exact time Jessica was last seen. More damning than his movements were the files recovered from his computer, folders filled with pictures of Jessica, archived news coverage of her disappearance, footage, both staged and real, depicting abduction and torment. It wasn't just what he collected, it was what it revealed. The prosecution argued that Willis waited until the station was quiet, then took Jessica from the rear of the building, brought her to his grandfather's home, held her against her will, then ended her life. The defense denied everything. claimed there was no physical proof, no direct connection between Willis and Jessica's vanishing. They pointed out that the van caught on surveillance footage could have belonged to anyone, that there were over 15,000 similar models across the state. But the jury wasn't swayed. After just an hour and a half of deliberation, they returned their verdict: guilty. Willis was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But even in that moment of long-awaited justice, the pain remained. Because even after all the trials, all the headlines, all the evidence, one thing was still missing: Jessica's body. Her remains have never been found. And for her family, that courtroom victory will always be shadowed by the one truth they still don't have. In the end, Jessica Lynn Heeringa was not just a missing person on a poster or a name whispered in courtrooms. She was 25-year-old mom, a daughter to Pete Jenkins and Shelley Heeringa, a sister to two young women who still carry her memory in every room she should have walked through. Those who knew her spoke of someone smart, someone kind, someone who tried her hardest, no matter how difficult things became. In her early 20s, she gave birth to her son Evan. That little boy became her world. And even though her relationship with his father Dakota had its struggles, he never stopped saying she was a good mother, a present one, a loving one. Jessica worked night shifts at the Exxon station in Norton Shores, not because she wanted to, but because she had to. When her fiancé lost his job, she stepped in to keep their small family going. She stood behind that counter alone through the darkest hours of the night so that her son could have a better life during the day. But she dreamed of more. Hidden in her journals were plans to go back to school, to study, to become an accountant. She wanted a career, a future, not just for herself, but for Evan. She believed in change. She believed that tomorrow could be better, and she was willing to fight for it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime documentaries. See you in the next video.